Still to my brother, what's happening?
Hey, fantasy, in session. We talking touchdowns, receptions, interceptions.
Let's go. Welcome back. Another week. You know, it's a pivotal week this week. Either you in, you out, or you got a chance at that first week bye. So you know what it is. It's Javar, my boy Dweeze.
Hey,
we here to help you to the promised land, man. Welcome back. How you feeling?
Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time since I've been here. A long time coming back in the session, ready to rock and roll. Look, you're not wrong, man. Pivotal week, right? Like, There's so many teams that are right in that bubble right now. You know, they're either maybe in, maybe out. They got to win this. You know, they need somebody else to lose, whatever. All we can do is our part. You know, you put your best team out there and see what happens. If you're lucky enough to already be locked up on the playoffs, great. Turn the show off. Go jerk off. If you're fucking out of it completely, hopefully you traded away all your pieces for all next year's picks and you're good there too. But the vast majority of us, man, we're fighting. We're fighting in week 14.
I got you. You know, if I would have won the week before or 2 weeks ago, I'll be fine right now. But because Cooks got hurt, Swift got hurt, you know.
Oh, man.
Right now, that I have to win this week to get the bye in a lot of leagues. So, yeah, man, it's gonna be this weekend is gonna be some anxiety in there. You know, like it's always
weekend. There's anxiety. That's why we play the game, because of the rush. Come on.
I feel like week 1 through week 4, it's a high anxiety. You know, you get that then and mellow down because you get kind of used to it. And then once you get like, you know, pivotal games, like some people playoffs start like week 13 because, you know, they're 4 and 6 and they got to win out or whatever. So, you know what I'm saying? So your anxiety pick back up towards when you get closer to playoff time. So, yeah, man, this weekend is going to be one for the road for sure.
My anxiety, it was very much like a steep climb all weekend long until Sunday night. You know, I'm down by 20 points Sunday night. I only got one guy left. If I win, I'm in. And it was fucking Javonte Williams. No anxiety. That boy ran like a machine. Won me my spot in the playoffs where I belong. I'm turning it on autopilot in that home league this week because I'm in, baby. That was something we've been waiting all year for. Couldn't have happened at a better time.
And I know you're not a real big Twitter guy, but on Twitter, it was some whispers out there saying like Javonte Williams is going to be a bust. And I'm like,
unfollow that account. Who's saying shit like that, man?
I seen a couple. They put Javonte Williams and Jamal Williams in the same category. I was like, okay, I can understand Jamal Williams, but Javonte Williams, I cannot understand that.
That's somebody trying to make a hot take so they can stand out from the crowd, and they belong to be unfollowed. I don't care who you are. If you make a dumbass comment like that, anybody's seen a moment of that boy on the field this season or in college, they knew what was coming. Come on, man. They knew it was coming. Led the league in running back targets last week, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that, 9 targets, just as the icing on the cake. Whatever that was last week, Melvin Gordon's probably coming back this week, so it doesn't even matter. Let's get into the shit that does matter, man. We got to start with the news. We got some news here to break down for you guys. I'll just kind of rip through these. Some of them are sort of relevant, some of them not really relevant, but you need to know anyway. Logan Thomas, you know, we thought for a minute he tore his MCL, ACL. He hadn't done that, right? The MRIs came back positive. They say he might be back this season, but you can pretty much write him off for fantasy. If he comes back, it's going to be maybe championship week, maybe not. If you've got him, don't rely on him in your playoffs at all. Kenyon Drake is done for the season, broke his ankle. I don't know if that means you want to go swoop up Jalen Richard. I don't know who the number 3 is on that team anymore, if I'm honest with you. Adam Thielen, here's a big one. He sprained his ankle. I don't know what a timeline is on him yet. I haven't heard much about the injury post. It was a sprained ankle.
I think he's missing Thursday as well as Cook. Yeah. So KJ Osborne, you know, I got him starting a couple leagues.
Yeah. Oh, you better believe there's going to be some Vikings on that list later on when we get into the waiver wire must-adds. Corey Davis, core muscle surgery. He is done for the season as well. Never really got back after he got injured, which it spells great things for young Elijah Moore, who looks super legit, man. Super legit. Joe Brady. How about this one? Joe Brady fired in Carolina. Big news there. I think is he the first coaching fire of the season? And it's an OC. Fired by the head coach, and it was Joe Damn Brady. That's a beautiful man. How do you fire such a good-looking dude? I don't understand it.
You got to get the job done. You know how it is.
When you sign Cam Newton to be your starting quarterback, you there's no more onus on that offensive coordinator. Nobody can win with Cam Newton. He's a fucking terrible quarterback who, by the way, is getting the start again this weekend, but we'll get to that later in the show. Hey, Damian Harris hamstrung last night, so something to keep an eye on. We don't know what the timetable is going to be on that. He tried to come back in the game, into that Monday night game. One play, another 25-yard run, and then he left again. God, that running game was an absolute clinic in that Monday night football game. It was good, but worth watching because Ramondre Stevenson, 28 carries in this game. He would be a must-add and must-play should Harris miss next week. Another running back on the injury table here, Eli Mitchell, concussion protocol. So watch that. Again, we never know what happens with the concussion protocol, but if he can't go, then there's some opportunity there. And if he does go, then he's at this point a must start. He's really starting to hit his stride. Keenan Allen on the COVID list. Again, he may be back by the time they kick off. I don't know. I think he's vaccinated, so it's a much easier road to get back on the field. Worth watching over the next few days to see if his tests come back. Darren Waller, day-to-day at this point. Maybe he'll be back this week, but nobody's willing to commit to that.
We can't have nice things in fantasy.
Well, if you're the Waller owner, like it has been several weeks since you've been relying on him for a win, right? Like you've learned already that you need to find points elsewhere. So you're not really on the edge of your seat waiting for this kid to come back, like an Alvin Kamara who please let that man be back on the field. How about this one? Joe Burrow broke his pinky and just doesn't give a shit about that at all. Out there throwing the ball anyway. You see that fucking pinky? It was 3 times the size that it should be. He doesn't care. The man's chucking the ball. He's going to keep on playing. They kept trying to tape it, and he'd rip the damn tape off. That's a man for you on the football field, Javar. That is a damn. I couldn't even sleep right if I jammed my pinky finger.
These quarterbacks in their fingers, they gonna end up looking like Bug.
Jesus
Bug
Christ.
McFarley, you seen his fingers?
Oh my God, yeah. Michael Strahan, same shit. Like everybody that ever played on the line, their fingers are all fucked up. That's the news. There's some pieces in there. We're going to get to some of the ramifications of those pieces as we jump into waiver wire must adds this week. There are plenty of guys that I think you should go after, and then there are some guys that maybe it's a this or that situation. I've got lots of questions for you, Javar, and for the people. I didn't prep you on any of them, so we'll see how up to date you are on your research. And see if you can make a good call on the fly. Are you ready for that? Because we're starting with a question.
I'm ready.
All right. Here's a quarterback question, man. There are 2 quarterbacks that are pretty widely available, 35% owned, both of them. They are starting quarterbacks in a super flex league, maybe not available, maybe available, and they become a lot more valuable at that point. But between these 2 guys, which would you rather have? It's Taysom Hill. Speaking of fingers, right? Same injury that Russell Wilson had to his finger. He doesn't seem to mind very much, as all he does is catch the snap and run, and you don't really need a working middle finger for that, I guess. And then Cam Newton's the other one here, right? Again, he's getting the start again. Oftentimes we see this when a coach is fired. Offense comes out with a new sense of immediacy and vigor, and they tend to play really well out of the gates. But look, he was 5 of 27 with 2 interceptions in his last start. So both guys have some red flags, but both guys are starting quarterbacks, and sometimes that can be exceedingly valuable. Which of those 2 would you prefer to spend your fab in?
Hill is the safer play right now. You need points. You whatever your 10 to 12 points, you're going to get that from Hill. Their offense look better. And if he's starting, I'd rather have him. Cam Newton, the whole offense have looked horrible all year. Cam Newton's only been there like 2 weeks, and he's changing OC already, so that they can't be trustworthy. CMC is out, so they gotta, count on Cam Newton more. So I just feel safer with Taysom Hill, especially if Kamara is back. He has a rushing floor. He usually finds the end zone. And when he's the starting quarterback throughout his career, he's usually ended up a quarterback once.
Yeah. Both guys are running guys, right? Like that's where you're expecting your points from both of these guys, especially with the finger from Taysom Hill. I got to say it's intriguing. Cam Newton, the Panthers get the Atlanta Falcons. Your boys, the Atlanta Falcons, a very, very terrible defense. So there is some interesting notes there. If Taysom Hill's not available in your league, but Cam is, I wouldn't hesitate to throw at him some fab at him as well. But you're right. I think Taysom's the guy. He seems to be more trustworthy on a better offense. Things are going better for him.
And they played the Jets, and Cam is worth the dart throw if you're hurting that quarterback right now against the Atlanta Falcons, who have given up probably the most points to quarterbacks at this moment. But still, yeah. So both are worth pickups. I just think Cam is more volatile than Taysom Hill.
Cool. I like it. Here's a running back question, this or that. This is a team in the Tennessee Titans that lost Derrick Henry, who's the world beater at the position. And they coming off a bye last week. But 2 weeks ago, we had two guys on this team who had huge days. Dontrell Hilliard, Deonta Foreman. Here are the numbers for these guys, okay? Deonta Foreman led in target or volume, right? 19 carries, 109 yards, and 1 reception. He did have a fumble on his day, which always hurts your production on the field. Dontrell Hilliard, 12 carries, also double digits, right? 131 yards, 1 reception, and instead of a fumble, he had a touchdown. So you got one guy whose production looked better and he scored. You got one guy whose volume looked a lot better in the last outing. Both are about 40% owned, and these guys get to face the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, who's just pitiful, right? Pitiful. And we know Tennessee's going to be leaning on the run game as they're without most of, or at least some of their big weapons on the outside. So which of these two would you rather put on your team? This is a legitimate question that people are dealing with as they're, it's the Swift owners, it's the Jonathan Taylor owners who have a bye this week that are thinking, who can I go get a piece of for this fill-in week?
Ooh, I feel like if you need upside, man, you got to go Hilliard. Ever since he came in, they basically the first week Hilliard played, they split carries at 7-7, and the second week he played, Foreman got more touches, but Hilliard was on the field more by like 8% or so, and he looked better on the field. So just go with the statistics and go with what you've seen on the field, and I feel Hilliard has a higher ceiling, and he's the better running back. And plus, they're playing Jacksonville, so both are going to be decent flex plays. I just think Hilliard has more upside.
Yeah, look, if one of these two guys, if you hit the right one, there's every chance that one of them is an RB1. Forget about flex play. But I'm going to go with D, all of the above here, right? You can't go wrong to me with either of these guys. They're both going to get work. They should both be successful against that Jacksonville team. It's probably going to come down to who scores, to be honest with you. And there's no way to know who's going to score on that team. You're not wrong. Hilliard is a more explosive player, but like either one available, go pick them up. You throw money at both of them. You might as well.
All right. These are players that you definitely starting this week in the flex at least.
Hell yeah. All right, here's a running back that hurts to talk about. I don't want to say this guy's name, but you have to. 40% owned. He is available. He is a starting running back right now in the league, getting the work on his team. It's Tevin Coleman. He got 11 carries last week. I think out of 12 or 13 for the team. It was nearly every touch, at least on the ground. So you have to look at Tevin Coleman if you're super desperate. Ty Johnson's just not getting work from the backfield. He'll catch a couple of passes, but that's just not enough. I know the last time I was on the show, I said go Ty Johnson. Tevin Coleman was worthless. But the coaching staff is determined to give the ball to a running back that just can't really get it done. He's not very efficient with those 11 carries last week, but he's going to get them. So if you're desperate, go and get you a piece of Tevin Coleman. Only if the two Tennessee guys are unavailable.
Very desperate because they have a tough matchup this week against New Orleans, and we don't know which Zach Wilson we're going to get. So if we knew Zach Wilson was going to play that way, I feel more confident. But I don't feel like he's a must start in the flex, like the Tennessee Titans running backs. But yeah, if you're in a pinch, you can get him, and he's like a fringe flex play, almost desperate because New Orleans is very good against the run. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Kobe.
Javar, last week in one of my leagues, the decision for running back 2 was either to play Marlon Mack, who hasn't suited up in weeks, or Kyle Juszczyk. There are people out there who are fucking desperate, and Tevin Coleman can be a desperation piece. He's going to get you some points, right? It's going to be some points, but that's all we can say about the man.
Right. So last week I started Jeffrey Wilson Jr. and Brandon Bowden. So I know a thing about being desperate right now.
It's that time of year, man. It's one of those seasons where people are going down. We got these late buys that are really weird. I hate the late buys, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
Let's switch gears. Let's go receivers here. I'm going to start with 2 guys that are probably owned in your league. They're fairly well owned, but it's worth a look. We've said this guy's name time and again on this show, Van Jefferson. 30% available, surprisingly still. He's obviously the wide receiver 2 on an incredible offense that looks like they found their stride again this past week. He is the must-own, 100% fab kind of guy. Throw it at him. Since Robert Woods left a few weeks ago, he's got 8 targets a game. He's scored in 2 out of those 3 games. He's the wide receiver 24 over the last 4 weeks, and he's only played 3 games because they had their bye in there, right? He's absolutely startable week in and week out at this point. Even before Robert Woods left, since week 7, he's averaging 7 targets a game, and get this, he's the wide receiver 24 all the way going back to week 7. That's with a bye under his belt and 2 games where the Rams failed to score 20. That offense is clicking again. Woods is gone. You know, Odell Beckham Jr. is on the team, but he is certainly not the number 2. It's Van Jefferson, and I don't see much of that volume shifting towards Odell Beckham because Jefferson's working with what he's got, and he's been productive on the field. Go scoop him up.
He should have been scooped up. Next week we play Arizona Cardinals, so you seen what the Cardinals has been doing, but nevertheless, you still starting the guy. This should be a shootout, 2 high-power offenses, and I like him moving forward for the rest of the season as a flex play. The last couple of games, he has been TD dependent, but that's good to show that Cup is looking for him in the end zone, and he's also a big play guy. So, yeah, I love him in the flex every week down the stretch.
My second favorite wide receiver here comes from your old stomping grounds. I'm going to go Russell Gage here, 54% owned.
We talking some positivity about the Falcons?
Yeah. He's my favorite Falcons receiver right now. Look, his target share has been double the rest of the wide on that team for 3 weeks in a row now. Since he's been healthy, he's looking at about 25% target share. That's going back to week 9. On this team, that would put him number 11 in the category in the league. He has the 6th most targets in that time in the league overall. He's the guy that when Matt Ryan needs a reception on a 3rd and short or whatever it is, he's looking at Russell Gage first, and I like that. I like the attitude Russell Gage is playing with on the field. He's really fun to watch right now. He knows it's his opportunity to sort of shine and put a little resume together, and I think things are starting to click for him. Certainly not the offense in general, but Russell Gage is going to come out of this thing smelling like roses at the end of this season. I think he's somebody you should own. Only owned in about half of leagues right now, 54% of leagues, so maybe available.
Love it. Yep, he got like 11 targets last week. Played well. He just scored a touchdown in back-to-back games.
Of course, you love it. He's a Falcon.
Right.
What's your shirt say?
You know what's going on.
Of course, I know what's not.
We still represent. Top 15 pick me. Hopefully we get the top 10, but we're trying to win.
Always take the wins and the later draft picks. Always. Oh, that's what a real fan would say anyway. Let's go to my division now. Let's go to the NFC North. It's not Chicago Bears that I'm going to talk about here, but a couple of Green Bay Packers. Coming out of a bye, so these guys may be more available than they should be. MVS, Marquis, Valdez, Scantling, one of those guys, only 25%-ish owned. 19 targets in the last 2 games. And it's not like 17 in one game and 2 in the other. It was 10 targets and 9 targets in the last 2 games they played. And his average depth of target is 19.4 yards, right? That's second best in the entire league behind Deshaun Jackson. If he's getting 9 targets a game and these targets are 20 yards downfield apiece, he can drop 3-4 of them, which he does week in and week out, and still be really valuable for your fantasy team. Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball at him, and he's going to catch some of them way the hell downfield and score you lots of points on lots of big plays. Go pick him up. Side note, and this is the polar opposite player, is Randall Cobb, only 18% owned. He's averaging about 5 targets a game right now. They're short, low, underneath targets. But the reason I think that you should consider him is that he leads the league in targets inside the 10-yard line. He has more than anybody else. I think he and Cooper Kupp are tied with the most targets inside the 10-yard line of anybody in the entire league, despite missing some time, having really limited target share overall. He's the guy that Aaron Rodgers trusts when it counts. He's that slot guy that knows how to use his body to box out down low and catch those touchdown passes. So, again, Cobb is more of a desperation play, but he's a desperation play with a relatively high likelihood of getting an opportunity to score, whereas MVS is a look. He should be on your roster because those big plays count big. Shut up with your those are great calls, both.
I like MVS. I know last time you brought him up, I was down on him, but he's seen 9-10 targets in the last 2 games, so that's some upside there where you can stash on your bench, and his throws from Aaron Rodgers. I cannot get with Cobb. You just tight. It's just touchdown to bust. I think you can get somebody. I get Amon-Ra St. Brown over Cobb. He got 12 targets last week, caught 10 of them for 86 yards and a touchdown. I know this is just one outlier, but I would rather get Amon-Ra St. Brown over Randall Cobb, because he was the number 1 guy last week, and he put up some numbers, so he could.
You say last week was an outlier for St. Brown, but since week 4, he's averaging a 20% target share on his team. He's right at that 20% number since week 4. Unfortunately, with the Lions, they have 85 yards passing in most games, so it doesn't matter how many balls you're catching. You're not getting the yardage, and you're not going to score a touchdown, right? You say Randall Cobb is touchdown dependent. That's absolutely true. But the fact that he's getting targets in the end zone more than anybody else means like you can start putting money down that he's going to at least have that chance to score. Whereas most touchdown dependent guys, you're just kind of rolling the dice. I think you're rolling a weighted dice with Randall Cobb. So I don't hate the Amon-Ra St. Brown call, but I would probably lean toward the better offense, which is a good rule of thumb.
I love the offense, but I'm going to lean more so at the volume and the upside, because if you're picking Randall Cobb up, you're most likely stashing him, and I'd rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown as a stash with more upside, with those targets. That's
two shots on the show next week for the loser. Deal.
Deal.
All right, I got 2 more questions for you. Pick the right guy. Don't fuck up for the people. Let's talk about that Adam Thielen replacement, okay? Because there are 2 names that keep popping up, 2 names all over. It's KJ Osborne, only 5% owned, widely available. And it's Tyler Conklin at 30% owned, still pretty widely available. KJ Osborne at times has been sort of a almost featured receiver on this team early in the season. 7 targets, I think, last week. Pretty good. But Tyler Conklin also coming in here, saw an uptick in targets. He's been a more regular piece of this offense over the last handful of weeks. Which of these 2 guys would you rather spend your money on as the replacement for Thielen if you're trying to get a piece of that?
This is a good question. I feel safer with Conklin. He has produced more with Thielen on the field, and he is the red zone target now for sure. With Thielen, he was getting some red zone targets with Thielen out, but with Thielen playing, but with Thielen out, Conklin is the red zone target for sure, and he's going to be used in the middle of the field, whereas KJ Osborne, I still like KJ. I still think he should be picked up as well. I just think he's going to be more volatile than Conklin, but KJ holds more upside than Conklin as well. That's just where I'm at. If you need somebody with more points, then I would go KJ. If you need a safe 10 to 12, 15 points, Conklin is your guy.
Yeah,
especially
Osborne
in tight end premium leagues, he's your guy.
He could have some big plays. He might be thrown at down the field a little bit. We know what Conklin's going to do. He's going to have a volume upside, and he has a potential score upside, I think, over Osborne. So it's one of those questions that we come back to a lot on the show. Is like, what do you actually need on your team, right? Like, Are you looking for a home run? Do you absolutely need it because you're way behind in projections? You're playing against a stud, or do you feel pretty good about your matchup and you just need somebody not to lose it for you? So make the determination based on your need there. That's a great call. One more question for you. Okay. Same team. Not the Minnesota Vikings, but these two players are on the same team. It's two wide receivers.
I'm about to say, how many?
We're going deep on the Vikings, baby.
I'm about to say, we already know to start Madison. Who else?
Justin Jefferson or the rest of the entire offense is the question. No. Jefferson might get 240 yards receiving this coming week. But I'm going to go back to the Tennessee Titans here because Julio Jones is designated to return from IR. There's a fair chance, I think, that he ends up playing this week. We know A.J. Brown is not going to be on the field. Like, they've been hurting for passive weapons on this team. So getting him back in the field could be pretty big. 60% owned, probably not available, but worth a look. Or we got Nick Westbrook, Akina. On the other side of the field, 20% owned. We know he'll be on the field. He's been out there all week. He's got 100 yards or a score in each of the last two games without Jones, and when Brown went out in that game two games ago, it was 3 weeks ago. He's got 14 targets in the last two games, but he only had two catches for 25 yards against New England in their previous outing. And it's not the first time he's done that. Against the Jets in week 4, he had 3 catches for 29 yards, even though we had 9 targets. So, this guy's shown us that sometimes even with volume, he can't do it. So, do you take Westbrook Akina and hope for something, or if Julio's on the field, do you put him out there and just see if he can be Julio again for us against a bad team?
I will say this. Both of them are out there on the waiver wires. Pick up both of them. They play Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Miami, and through the playoff run, and all those have green light on them. Like, you can pass on them. So, and this is going to be a team that needs to win and just looking for an identity to go into the playoffs offensively. I think both of them are great pickups. They're going to be the 1-2 punch at the wide receiver position for Tannehill. Who I like more? I'm just go with the veteran, man. It might have something to do with me being a Falcons fan, but I'm just go with the Hall of Famer, Julio Jones. If he's even 80%, 70% healthy, he's still better than the other guys out there, and he'll be able to use his body to an advantage. So I feel safer with Jones.
I would say. And you mentioned this, right? Like you said, pick them both up. I would say if you agree with Javar and you're picking up Julio Jones, go pick up somebody else as well. Like, you're going to need to say, because we don't know for sure Julio is going to be back. Like, the team has every incentive to get him out on the field in this game because they should win without him, but they absolutely need some weapons. But if you pick him up and he's the only guy you pick up and he doesn't end up playing, you're going to be in a real spot. So if you can't get him and somebody else to get put on your bench just in case he doesn't go, have a backup plan ready. Last guy here before we get out of here, it is tight end time. We're going to go back to my Chicago Bears, a guy that we brought up before. It's Cole Kmet. Dude's averaging 4 catches on 6 targets. He's averaging about 45, 50 yards in most of the games he's played this year, which isn't great, but for a tight end, that's not a bad streaming number, and he's been pretty consistent, even in the games where the Bears are sort of getting their asses kicked. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is, both guys are sort of looking to him, at least in the middle of the field. Really interesting, when I looked this up, I didn't realize this, even as a fan who's watched most of the games. Cole Kmet hasn't scored yet this year. He's got a lot of targets. They just don't throw the ball to him inside the 10. 1 target inside the 10, only 7 targets in the red zone. Jimmy Graham is still coming in and doing some of that work, unfortunately, when they get down deep. But I think Cole Kmet is worth a streaming look if that's where you're at. I think he's going to give you a relatively safe volume and yardage floor this week and the rest of the weeks going forward. And you know what? He might score. Like, he's got to eventually, right? Just accident into the end zone.
Right. Next year. No, I'm just playing.
When he leaves the Bears, I'm sure he'll find the end zone.
Man, at this point in life, there is no bad call to take when you're talking about tight end land. You know, you're going to need somebody, man. So I'm with it. You know, even like Gerald Everett stunk up the field last week when he could have had a productive outing if he just caught the football. So, you know, you got a couple tight ends out there. But or even Ricky Seals-Jones with Logan Thomas out. Ricky Seals-Jones could come back, and when he played with Logan Thomas out, Ricky Seals-Jones was startable. So that's another person that I like. It's just this offense hasn't looked too good. They play Green Bay, then Minnesota. So, I mean, if you're in a pinch, I don't mind, but I would definitely look at Ricky Seals-Jones Jr. first.
Rick, is he a junior?
Maybe not. Maybe I added a little flavor on that.
You added a little flavor, or you messed up his name. I mean, that is something.
I added some flavor on that. He's definitely not a junior. He's going to have a junior and name him Ricky Seals.
There you go. All right, that's pretty much it for us. I'm going to give you one bonus name just to look at for the fantasy playoffs. I think next week, Javar, you and I are really going to dive into the fantasy matchups over the playoffs to give people a good idea of where they might be able to steal some points and maybe some surprise starts over some surprise sits on their own roster. But one guy that you should consider for these fantasy playoffs, as just a preview for next week, is J.D. McKissick. He's going to be back from his head injury. And while he doesn't have a super easy schedule in the playoffs, the running backs that catch passes have beat both the Giants and the Cowboys, and that's the only two teams that the Washington football team has left on their schedule. They play each of them twice. So maybe somebody to consider. But that's it. That's for another day. I think we're done. Once you get us out of here so that I can go, I don't know, work or something.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, like we said, to help you in the playoffs. Until then, we out.
Fantasy, it's session.